Before the pyramids of Egypt rose above the desert sands, before the cuneiform tablets of Mesopotamia chronicled laws and legends, another civilization flourished, vast, complex, and remarkably advanced. Spanning the fertile plains of what is now India and Pakistan, the Indus Valley Civilization thrived for over 1,000 years. At its peak, more than 5 million people lived in its meticulously planned cities, navigating an intricate network of streets, reservoirs, and trade routes stretching as far as Mesopotamia and Central Asia. Their engineering was centuries ahead of its time, with covered drainage systems, multi-story homes, and public granaries. But despite their achievements, these people left behind an eerie silence. Unlike the Egyptians, whose hieroglyphs tell us tales of their gods and kings, or the Mesopotamians, who recorded their laws and conquests in cuneiform, the Indus Valley Civilization has left us no readable words. Their language, if it was a language, remains lost. Thousands of inscriptions have been discovered, carved onto small stone seals, etched into copper tablets, and stamped onto pottery. This system of symbols, known as the Indus script, is one of the oldest forms of writing ever known, dating back to at least 2600 BCE. But there's a problem. No one can read it. Unlike Egyptian hieroglyphs, which were deciphered thanks to the Rosetta Stone, a bilingual text that provided a direct translation, the Indus script has no such key. Unlike Mesopotamian cuneiform, which evolved over centuries and left clear linguistic descendants, the Indus script vanishes around 1900 BCE, leaving no recognizable successor. Even more puzzling is its brevity. The longest known sequence contains just 17 characters. Most inscriptions are no longer than 5 or 6. In contrast, Egyptian and Mesopotamian texts run into thousands of words, allowing linguists to break down sentence structures and identify recurring words. The Indus script, by comparison, is frustratingly incomplete. If these symbols represent a full-fledged language, it must have been incredibly concise, or something else entirely. And yet, this was no minor culture. This was one of the great civilizations of the ancient world, rivaling Egypt and Mesopotamia in scale and complexity. Every other major society of this stature has left behind readable texts. So why is the Indus script still silent? Some scholars speculate that the Indus people may have written on perishable materials such as palm leaves, bark, or cloth, which have long since disintegrated, leaving us only their cryptic stone seals. Others suggest that the script represents a language so unique that it has no connection to anything we know today. But a more radical theory proposes something even stranger. What if it was never a language at all? All we have are patterns, sequences of symbols, repeated across a civilization that once stretched over 1 million square kilometers, and a system frozen in time, waiting, perhaps one day, to be understood. The mystery of the Indus script deepens when we ask a fundamental question. Was it ever meant to be read in the way we expect? When we think of ancient writing, we imagine legal codes carved in stone, grand proclamations of kings, and myths and epics passed down for generations. Writing is the foundation of recorded history. It allows civilizations to transmit knowledge across centuries. But the Indus script, it appears in none of these forms. The most common artifacts bearing these symbols are small stone seals, often no larger than the palm of a hand. These seals feature intricate depictions of animals, bulls, elephants, unicorn-like creatures, alongside short inscriptions. Many of these seals seem to have been used for stamping goods, marking ownership, or serving as trade authentication. The symbols also appear on pottery, metal tools, and even amulets, but nowhere do we find lengthy texts, personal letters, or administrative records like those of Mesopotamia or Egypt. This raises an uncomfortable question. Was this truly a writing system, or was it something else? One theory suggests that these inscriptions were used for commerce, much like the merchant marks of later civilizations. These could have functioned as identifiers, simple, universally understood symbols marking the origins of goods or verifying ownership. It makes sense. The Indus Valley was a hub of trade with connections stretching to Mesopotamia, where the civilization was referred to as Meluha in ancient texts. In fact, Mesopotamian records describe merchants from Meluhha arriving in Sumerian cities, bringing timber, lapis lazuli, and luxury goods. If the Indus script was a trade language, its brevity could be explained. It may have functioned more like a branding system than a means of storytelling. Another theory proposes that the script was primarily religious, used for sacred rituals or temple transactions. Some seals depict figures seated in what appears to be a meditative or yogic posture, possibly representing deities or religious leaders. If the script was restricted to a priestly class, it may never have been widely used among the general population. Perhaps it was a sacred form of writing, known only to a select few. Then there's the most radical theory. What if the Indus script isn't writing at all? Imagine a world where communication doesn't rely on words, but on universally recognized symbols. We do it today. Road signs, hazard warnings, airline baggage labels. These convey meaning instantly without needing translation. Could the Indus script have operated in a similar way? If true, we would expect the symbols to appear in random sequences with no discernible structure. But here's where the mystery deepens. Because when researchers analyzed the script, they found something astonishing. The symbols follow patterns eerily similar to real languages. In 2009, computational linguist Rajesh Rao and his team conducted a statistical analysis of the Indus script. They compared its structure to known languages and found that the sequences of symbols follow linguistic rules. Certain symbols frequently appear at the beginning of inscriptions, while others tend to appear at the end. This suggests that the script follows grammatical patterns, much like real writing systems. If the symbols were merely decorative or pictorial, we would expect them to appear randomly. But they don't. So, which is it? A trade language, a sacred script, a proto-writing system, or something completely different? One of the greatest challenges in deciphering the Indus script is that we simply don't have enough examples. Most writing systems develop gradually, expanding over time to include more complex ideas. Egyptian hieroglyphs evolved over thousands of years, growing into a system capable of recording everything from royal decrees to poetry. Mesopotamian cuneiform began as a series of pictograms used for accounting, but eventually developed into a full-fledged writing system that lasted for over 3,000 years. The Indus script, by contrast, appears fully formed and then vanishes. There is no clear progression, no earlier versions, no later adaptations. It is as if a civilization spanning 1,000,000 square kilometers relied on a writing system that left no trace beyond a handful of short inscriptions. But one thing is certain. The people of the Indus Valley saw these symbols as important. They appear on objects central to their lives. Trade goods, religious artifacts, personal belongings. The same symbols appear across vast distances, suggesting a shared understanding among a civilization that flourished for over 1,000 years. Yet the meaning of those symbols remains elusive. For now, the Indus script stands as one of the last great undeciphered writing systems of the ancient world. A puzzle without a Rosetta Stone. A story waiting to be told. And the key to that story might be hiding in plain sight. The Indus script has puzzled scholars for decades. But perhaps the most unsettling question isn't just what it says, it's where it truly comes from. The Indus Valley Civilization, one of the world's earliest urban societies, emerged around 3,300 BCE and thrived for over 1,000 years. Its cities, Harappa, Mohenjo-Daro, Dholavira, grew into vast metropolises of carefully planned streets, grand public structures, and sophisticated water management systems. But for all their achievements, their writing system presents a mystery unlike any other. Most writing systems evolve gradually. The earliest Egyptian hieroglyphs can be traced back to crude pictographs scratched onto pottery. Mesopotamian cuneiform began as a series of simple tally marks used for accounting, before developing into a full writing system. Chinese characters also evolved over time, shifting from pictographic origins into a structured, complex script. The Indus script, however, appears fully formed around 2600 BCE. There is no evidence of earlier primitive versions, no gradual transition from pictographs to a full writing system. It's as if it simply appeared overnight. And then, just as suddenly, it vanishes. By 1900 BCE, the script disappears completely. Unlike Egyptian and Mesopotamian writing, which transformed into later languages, the Indus script leaves no direct successors. There are no later adaptations, no simplified forms that survived into the Iron Age. It's as if an entire system of communication was wiped out, erased from history. This raises an extraordinary possibility. Could the Indus script predate the Indus Valley Civilization itself? Could it be a remnant of an even older, forgotten culture? Some scholars believe the symbols used in the Indus script may not have originated within the Indus Valley at all. There are traces of similar markings on much older artifacts, some dating back thousands of years before the rise of the Indus cities. Engraved objects from sites like Mehrgarh, an early Neolithic settlement in modern-day Pakistan, show markings that hint at a form of symbolic communication long before the Indus script as we know it emerged. Were these ancestral forms of the script, belonging to a civilization that existed before the Indus people built their great cities? If true, this would mean the Indus script is not just one of the world's oldest writing systems. It may be one of humanity's oldest inherited traditions passed down from a culture lost to time. But there's a problem. Writing systems don't just appear fully developed. They evolve through trial and error, through mistakes and refinements, through centuries of adaptation. If the Indus script was borrowed from an earlier civilization, where is the evidence of its predecessor? Where are the crude versions, the early attempts? Perhaps the most baffling part of this mystery is its complete disappearance. When cuneiform declined, Akkadian, Aramaic and Persian scripts took its place. Egyptian hieroglyphs evolved into Demotic and later Coptic. But the Indus script, it simply stops. There is no transitional phase, no simplified derivatives, no later inscriptions that hint at its survival. Or was it preserved in ways we have not yet recognized? Some researchers argue that remnants of the Indus script may have survived in later South Asian writing systems. The Tamil Brahmi script, one of the oldest in India, shares certain structural similarities with Indus symbols. Could the Indus script be an ancestor of early Dravidian writing? Others believe it may be linked to an unknown proto-writing system, a distant relative of scripts yet to be discovered. The idea that the Indus script could be older than the civilization itself challenges everything we assume about how writing develops. If true, it forces us to ask an even bigger question: who wrote it first? Were the Indus people the pioneers of their own script, or were they inheritors of a knowledge that came before? The answers remain elusive. But one thing is certain: the Indus script is not just a linguistic puzzle. It is a gateway to a deeper mystery, one that stretches beyond the Indus Valley and into the very origins of human civilization itself. If the Indus script didn't emerge gradually as most writing systems do, and if it appears fully developed with no clear predecessors, then we must ask, could it have been influenced by an earlier unknown civilization? The idea of lost civilizations has long fascinated historians, but in most cases, the evidence remains elusive. With the Indus script, however, there are clues that suggest a connection to something older, something that may have shaped the very foundation of the Indus Valley Civilization itself. Across South Asia, archaeologists have uncovered artifacts that predate the rise of the Indus cities, but bear symbols strikingly similar to the Indus script. Small engraved objects, some dating back to the Mehrgarh culture of the 7th millennium BCE, contain markings that hint at an early form of symbolic communication. These symbols are not identical to the Indus script, but their presence suggests that a system of visual communication was in use long before the first Indus cities emerged. But if the Indus script was influenced by an earlier civilization, where did this influence come from? Some scholars have looked westward towards Mesopotamia, where cuneiform was developing around the same time. Others suggest a possible link to Elam, an ancient civilization in what is now Iran, where unique scripts have also been discovered. Could trade and cultural exchanges have played a role in shaping the Indus script? The Indus Valley was not an isolated world. Its people engaged in long-distance trade, exchanging goods with Mesopotamia, Central Asia, and even regions as far as modern-day Oman. The famous Mesopotamian records mention a distant land called Meluha, believed to be the Indus Valley, describing it as a land rich in exotic goods. If these two civilizations were in contact, could they have also shared ideas, including written communication? Yet for all these intriguing possibilities, there is one glaring problem. The Indus script remains fundamentally different from any known ancient writing system. While Mesopotamian cuneiform developed from pictographs representing physical objects, the Indus script does not show the same evolution. Egyptian hieroglyphs evolved alongside a spoken language that we can still study today, but no such connection exists for the Indus script. And despite the similarities some have proposed between the Indus script and early Dravidian languages, no definitive linguistic bridge has been found. This leads to an even stranger possibility. What if the Indus script was never influenced by external cultures at all? What if it represents a completely independent invention of writing, separate from Mesopotamian or Egyptian influences? If so, then the Indus Valley Civilization may have been even more advanced than we currently understand, and the ability to create a structured writing system from scratch without borrowing from neighboring cultures would place the Indus people among the greatest innovators of the ancient world. But without a Rosetta Stone, without long text to analyze, and without a clear successor script, we may never know the full extent of the Indus script's origins. Whether it was shaped by an earlier civilization, developed through trade networks, or emerged as a truly independent system, one thing remains certain. It is unlike anything else we have ever seen, and that in itself is a mystery worthy of the greatest civilizations. For nearly a century, scholars have tried to decipher the Indus script using traditional methods, comparing it to known languages, searching for patterns, and attempting to link it to later South Asian scripts. But what if the problem isn't just the method? What if we've been looking in the wrong place entirely? Most efforts to crack the Indus script have focused on South Asia, assuming it must be related to the languages spoken there today. Some researchers have proposed a link to early Dravidian languages, suggesting the script could be an ancestor of Tamil or Telugu. Others have argued that it has connections to early Sanskrit and Vedic traditions. But despite decades of work, no definitive link has been established. The script remains unreadable. This has led some scholars to propose a radical new idea. What if the key to the Indus script isn't in South Asia at all? What if we should be looking elsewhere? One unexpected clue comes from Mesopotamia. Ancient Sumerian and Akkadian texts mention a distant land called Meluha, which many historians believe refers to the Indus Valley Civilization. Mesopotamian records describe Meluha as a major trading partner, known for its high-quality goods, including timber, lapis lazuli, and precious metals. Some seals found in Mesopotamia even bear symbols similar to the Indus script. Could the key to deciphering the Indus script be hidden in Mesopotamian records? If Indus traders lived and worked in Mesopotamia, it is possible they left behind inscriptions that could serve as a missing link. A bilingual inscription, something written in both the Indus script and a known Mesopotamian language, could be the breakthrough needed to unlock the script. Yet, despite decades of searching, no such inscription has been found. But Mesopotamia isn't the only place where scholars have looked. Some have turned their attention to ancient Iran, where the Elamite civilization developed its own unique writing system. Others have examined Central Asia, where the Bactria-Margiana archaeological complex, BMAC, shows signs of early writing traditions. Could the Indus script share an unexpected connection with one of these lesser-known cultures? Then there is the possibility that the key isn't geographical at all, but technological. Advances in artificial intelligence have allowed researchers to analyze languages in ways never before possible. Machine learning models have already been used to reconstruct lost languages, detecting patterns invisible to the human eye. Could AI finally break the Indus code? If AI is the answer, it may not be looking at the right data. Most analyses of the Indus script focus on the seals and inscriptions already discovered. But what if the real key to deciphering it hasn't even been found yet? The Indus Valley Civilization was vast, and much of it remains unexcavated. In recent years, satellite imaging has revealed buried structures, entire cities that have yet to be studied. If a longer inscription, a true Rosetta Stone exists, it may still be lying undiscovered beneath the soil. For too long, researchers may have been searching for answers in the wrong places, assuming the script fits neatly into known linguistic categories. But what if the Indus script doesn't follow the rules of any other writing system? What if the answer lies not in South Asia, not in Mesopotamia, not in any known civilization, but in something we have yet to uncover? The Indus script is a mystery that has resisted every attempt at decipherment. But that may be because the real breakthrough has not yet been found. Whether it lies in an undiscovered artifact, a lost inscription in a foreign land, or hidden patterns that only AI can detect, the search is far from over. And the moment we stop assuming we know where to look might be the moment we finally begin to understand. For over a century, scholars have worked tirelessly to decode the Indus script, believing that it holds the key to understanding one of history's most enigmatic civilizations. But what if the entire premise is wrong? What if the Indus script was never meant to be deciphered, because it was never a true writing system in the first place? It's a controversial idea, but one that has gained traction in recent years. When we think of writing, we think of recorded speech. Language transcribed onto a medium, capturing thoughts, laws, history, and communication in a structured form. But the Indus script doesn't fit neatly into this model. Unlike Egyptian hieroglyphs, which appear in long, elaborate text describing religious beliefs and royal decrees, or Mesopotamian cuneiform, which includes everything from trade receipts to epic poetry, the Indus script is remarkably brief. Most inscriptions contain only 5 or 6 characters, and the longest discovered sequence is a mere 17 symbols. This isn't just unusual. It's unprecedented for a writing system of such an advanced civilization. This brevity raises a startling possibility. What if the Indus script was never a written language at all? Some researchers have suggested that these symbols functioned more like pictograms, visual markers meant to convey meaning without phonetic representation. We still use symbols like this today. A red octagon at a street corner tells us to stop. A skull and crossbones warns of poison. No one reads these signs in the traditional sense, yet their meaning is universally understood. Could the Indus script have operated in a similar way? If true, this would explain why we have found no long-form inscriptions, no complex grammatical structures, no texts detailing rulers, laws, or myths. The script may have been a system of symbolic communication, a kind of proto-writing designed for trade, identification, or religious rituals. But if the Indus script was not a true writing system, why does it exhibit patterns consistent with language? Statistical analyses of the script have revealed that its symbols appear in structured sequences. Certain signs frequently occur at the beginning of inscriptions, while others tend to appear at the end. This suggests rules, an internal logic similar to that of written languages. If the script were purely decorative or used randomly, we would expect its symbols to appear in arbitrary combinations. Yet they do not. This paradox has led some to propose a hybrid theory. Perhaps the Indus script was not a phonetic language, but it was also more than just pictograms. It may have been a system of encoded symbols, conveying abstract concepts or categories rather than spoken words. A merchant seal, for example, might not have represented a personal name, but rather a trade guild, a city, or a religious association. A set of symbols on a ritual object might not have been a sentence, but a collection of sacred emblems, each carrying meaning understood only within its cultural context. There is also the question of why the Indus script disappeared entirely. Writing systems, even when they evolve, tend to leave behind traces in later cultures. Egyptian hieroglyphs transformed into Demotic and later Coptic. Cuneiform developed into Akkadian and influenced later scripts. But the Indus script has no direct descendants. Could it be that it was not preserved because it was not a spoken language, but rather a closed system of symbols whose meaning was lost with the civilization itself? The Indus script may be the greatest unsolved mystery of ancient writing, not just because we cannot read it, but because we may have been misunderstanding its purpose all along. And if that is the case, the key to solving it may not be in comparing it to other languages, but in rethinking what we believe writing is. For over a century, scholars, linguists, and cryptographers have searched for the meaning of the Indus script. Theories have been proposed and discarded. AI has searched for patterns. Historians have scoured ancient records for a lost Rosetta Stone. And yet, despite all of this, the symbols remain silent. But what if there's a reason for this silence? One that goes beyond lost knowledge or the limitations of archaeology? What if the Indus script contains a secret so unexpected, so disruptive, that we are simply not ready for what it might reveal? History is shaped by the narratives we construct, by what we believe about the origins of civilizations, the spread of languages, and the movement of people. Cracking the Indus script could rewrite all of that. If the script is proven to be Dravidian, it could shift long-standing debates about India's ancient past, lending weight to the idea that Dravidian languages were dominant in the subcontinent before Indo-Aryan migration. If instead it turns out to have roots in an early form of Sanskrit, it could redefine the origins of Vedic culture. And if it is something else entirely, an independent linguistic branch, unrelated to any known family, it could force us to rethink how human societies developed written language in the first place. But there is an even more unsettling possibility. What if the Indus script doesn't conform to any of our expectations because it records something radically different from what we assume? We expect to find trade records, political decrees, religious texts, things that align with what we know about other ancient civilizations. But what if the Indus script contains knowledge that doesn't fit within those categories? Consider the way Mesopotamian cuneiform and Egyptian hieroglyphs expanded our understanding of the ancient world. These scripts revealed not just laws and trade, but also science, medicine, and engineering techniques far ahead of their time. The Indus Valley Civilization was highly advanced, with precise urban planning, extensive trade networks, and a water management system that rivals modern designs. What if their script contains technological or scientific insights that were lost when their civilization declined? Could it be a missing link in human progress? One that, if understood, could change what we know about early technology, astronomy, or even medicine. And then there's the most controversial question of all. What if the script wasn't meant for us? Throughout history, writing has served many purposes. Some texts were meant for rulers and scholars. Others were sacred, intended only for priests or initiates. But there have also been systems of knowledge deliberately hidden. Esoteric traditions encoded so that only the initiated could understand them. Could the Indus script fall into this category? Could it be a form of restricted knowledge designed to be unreadable to outsiders, safeguarded against those who were not part of the culture? If so, this could explain why it resists decipherment. Perhaps it was never meant to be decoded by those outside its world. Perhaps it functioned not as a conventional writing system, but as a symbolic code, one that only made sense within the cultural, religious, or philosophical framework of the Indus people themselves. And what if the knowledge it contains was seen as too powerful, too dangerous to be passed down? Ancient civilizations have stories of lost wisdom, secrets buried with their societies, erased by time or intentionally hidden to prevent misuse. Could the Indus script contain ideas, beliefs, or discoveries that were intentionally obscured when the civilization collapsed? Could we be looking at the remnants of something that was never meant to be rediscovered? This is the unsettling truth about the Indus script. We assume that deciphering it will give us answers. But what if those answers only lead to more questions? So, questions we may not be prepared to confront. For now, the Indus script remains one of history's greatest locked doors. But if and when we finally force it open, we must be ready for what's on the other side. Because the story of the Indus Valley Civilization may not be the story we expect. It may be something much, much bigger.